Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, I shouldn't take too much of your time. Can you say and spell your first and last name for me, please?
Yeah, my name's James Gray. It's really easy. Jamesgray.
And then tell me your gym name and tell me a little bit about your gym too.
It's the Michigan Institute of Athletics, and it's the home of Scorpion Fighting System and several other small entities within the Michigan Institute of Athletics. Basically, it's like a full-service fitness and martial arts facility. We have professional athletes that train there. We have people that compete all over the world, the UFC, Ryzen in Japan, the Ultimate Fighter, some of the biggest organizations in the world, all here in Brighton. But then we also cater a lot to like children or women's self-defense. We have fitness programs. We really have a little bit of everything.
Cool. So let's just get right into it because, like I said, I want to get this on our 6 o'clock news. I saw already that people have returned to your gym. How many people have come back already and want to work out?
I don't know how I don't know the exact number, but I would say a large amount of our members that were supporting us while we were still closed, because we basically reached out to everybody and said, hey, we'll offer refunds and stuff to anybody that can't make it in during these difficult times. But if you choose to support us, it could be the difference between whether we sink or swim. And a large amount, surprisingly, as soon as we open the door, because we haven't.
Hey James, 1 second. You just froze on me, buddy. Okay,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Sorry about that. Someone started to call me. But anyway, we haven't fully instituted our like classes or put our normal schedule back into effect. We just made it like an open gym format for our members. Like we're not even allowing in the general public yet, but we're just saying, hey, the people that supported us during this really difficult time, you'll have a place to come and train. And I would say a large percentage of our supporters have taken advantage of that.
Got it. And why why haven't you opened to the general public yet? Are you fearful that if you do that, then that will result in a ticket or a fine?
I wouldn't say that that's the reason that I haven't opened to the general public. It's just I see how scared and just emotional people are right now in this current time. I mean, this is a pandemic, probably the first one that we both lived through, and I didn't want to just roll it all at once. Not that I don't believe that we could. I just wanted to do as much as I could to try to show people that I'm not trying to be a terrible person that's putting people's lives in danger. I want to do a slow process and kind of just make people feel better. But, that was just my decision to say, hey, we'll start with just an open gym format where you can follow any guidelines that you'd like. You can keep all your social distancing. You can, wear gloves. You can wear a mask, anything that makes you feel comfortable. And then once we get back up and running for a couple weeks, my plan is to put all of our schedule back into effect and, allow our coaches and stuff to come back and start instructing.
Has any law enforcement been by your gym or instructed you to shut down at this point?
Shockingly, no. Because I went extremely public with this route. Like, I don't believe in hiding I didn't want to behind the scenes try to sneak people into the gym and be training. And like I know several businesses that have operated since day one of the quarantine, and I didn't want to follow that route. Like, I quarantined myself. I did everything I could to follow the protocols, but I immediately went to work on this situation. I started studying the subject matter at hand. I started studying COVID-19. I started speaking to all the professionals in my life that I could. I have a large network of people, so I spoke to House of Representatives members in length. I've spoken to doctors and ICU nurses, and then I, basically obsessed over the CDC website and reporting around the data, involved in this pandemic. And, with all of the different elements together, I was able to start, making decisions. And I thought, hey, people that are not as informed or might not be privy to this information might just show up and shut me down right away. But shockingly, I haven't seen it.
So you said you've spoken to experts and
Yeah.
lawmakers. Do you have a degree in a medical degree?
No, absolutely not. But, I'm not a mathematician, but I could tell you 1 + 2 is 3, so I try to focus on the truth and the information around it. And then I corroborate that with other people and I try to understand subject matter. And, I kind of like reverse engineer things. I break them apart to the smallest details, and then I put things together, and then I check with experts and reach out to doctors that I have doctors at Beaumont Hospital and other people that I've been close to for a long time to verify information before I move forward, because I don't want to be, pushing bad ideas onto people, the public, or obviously putting people at risk.
Sure. And Go
let's
ahead.
say this, you can't say general terms like at risk, at a substantial risk of harm.
Sure, sure. I know you want to be careful with your words.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, and I don't know you yet, Rudy, and you could be a great guy and you could try to do this just before. I've seen some media clips that, I've watched reporters sing songs on interviews by people clipping them together. So
I understand. I understand. No, that's I completely think that that's reasonable and not,
to be honest with you, I
not.
had two reporters come out and report on us first, and like yesterday, local four came out in Detroit, and the gentleman at first came in with a mask and was very, very, on one side of the argument. Him and I spoke for over a half an hour, and we went over all the information that I possessed, and we looked at stats online, and we broke everything down into very small detail. And by the end of the conversation, I couldn't believe how different his stance was. This is off the record. He took his mask off and gave me a fist bump. He says, "You know what, man? I don't know how much you obsessed over this situation, but you definitely did your research, and hey, I'm a fan." And I
Yeah,
never expected that.
I saw his report and I saw that he added that part in there about your research and you digging deeper into it. I don't know if I'll have time for that. I'll just be honest, but and I don't know what my
You have
producers
to
want
watch
at this
my
point.
video that I put up on May 1st about why I was making a decision. I did a 20-minute public video because I wanted to be very clear. And if I would have put out a 20-minute public video full of nonsense, it would have got butchered. It would have got absolutely slaughtered in a time like this. And you know that. Imagine if I was online making some claim saying the virus was a hoax or some nonsense like that, it would have got slaughtered. But it didn't. And there's a reason that it didn't.
Well, and I do want to talk about the human element of this because your livelihood, I'm sure, is at stake. Is that a true statement?
Everybody's is to some degree. You know what I mean? I don't know the level of the
Well,
generosity
well,
of
I'm
our
I'm
members.
essential in the sense that my job is considered essential. Essential. So
Oh yeah, you're
you
right.
know,
So I am non-essential. Like obviously, doing jujitsu or training martial arts or teaching people self-defense, or these are not considered essential things during this, pandemic. But obviously, I believe that my livelihood is essential. I believe that taking care of my family and supporting my family and my keeping my home and my business and my life's work, like to me, that's important. Now, if millions of Americans were going to die, you know what? We all have to sacrifice in life, but when the information doesn't point that direction, then I do believe that our elected officials and the people in positions of authority, they hold my hopes and dreams in their hands right now. And, I just hope that they're truly making the best information or the best decisions possible with the information available.
hey, I would love to have more time to speak with you also just about this, but obviously I have to get it on air at 6 o'clock, so I have an hour here.
No, I
But thank you for taking the time and speaking out because from my perspective, I do want to hear everybody's voice. And certainly my job is to give a voice to people beyond just a social media page, which can reach a huge audience, but at least it'll reach our audience and your
Well,
message over here.
to be honest, Rudy, you've been given an incredible position right now during one of the worst parts in our history, where your voice could literally shift the story one way or another. And if you focus on finding the right information and dedicating your time to this research, like you could be the pivotal person to help us go in a good direction. You know what I mean? Can you imagine if months down the road, the information is right in front of us right now, but we make decisions. We allow 40 million people to be unemployed. The Great Depression number was what? I think 15 million around 1933 at its worst. Who knows what's going to happen when unemployment benefits run out and all of these things are in place? And if we looked back and said, wow, we actually could have had a better grasp on what was taking place and on the virus, but for whatever reason, we just hadn't got to that conclusion yet. People like you truly could make a massive impact. So if you wanted to speak to me more off the record and said, hey, what makes you feel so confident to make the decisions you are? I've compiled an incredible source of information of firsthand accounts and CDC website reporting. I believe that if you were to discuss this with me in detail, you
Hmm.
could be a key player to this, man. Like you could make a major difference. And a lot of people are counting on people like you right now, myself included. Like a lot of my friends told me, hey, be careful talking to media. And I was like, you know what? They could literally alter the course of the direction that we go with this. I should talk to everybody that's willing to listen, because if I have bad information, that wouldn't be hard to disprove. But if I have good information, you could have some groundbreaking stories, man.
Words have meaning. Certainly, I agree with you there. How long have you been closed officially to the general public? Was it 8 weeks or something like that, right? So far.
Yeah, and right when the order came out, think it was what, like March 13th or something like that. I shut the door down. I quarantined. My girlfriend's got an autoimmune disorder. So I was like, oh my God. And I'm not political at all. I don't take to the right or the left. I stay out of politics. I try to help my community. I try to help the people in my life. But I said, you know what? I'm going to look into this thing. Is it worse than what they're telling us? Is it not as bad? Is it exactly what's being said? All I care about is the information being accurate. Like, I don't care what side or anything like that. I don't tie into that stuff. I just want to know what the truth is and then make rational decisions with that information.
And how many members do you have? You think
A couple hundred.
And sorry?
A few hundred.
A few hundred, okay. 200 to 300 members?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that, I certainly want to tell a deeper story, but I know this story is kind of a human interest piece where it really is focusing on like, all right, it's a lot of people's livelihoods. You're not alone in that sense where people are like, I don't know, what tomorrow's going to bring. So
I just really hope they don't paint it that this man is making these decisions because he needs money, because that is not why I'm making these decisions. Like, I want to be very clear about that. I'm making these decisions based off the information that I have available to me. Like, because if I was just thinking that I want to make money while I could kill my friends or family, like, I would never make that decision. And if you would make that decision, there's problems. But then again, we're letting violent offenders and sexual offender criminals out of jail right now. So we need to consider the decisions that we're making. Can you imagine that, Rudy? Imagine you and I being locked up for having dialogue while sexual offenders and violent criminals are being let out of prison.
Sure.
Is that about public safety?
People who have committed some heinous crimes
A
are being freed.
Only kept in by one vote. The Green River Killer, you should look it up. One vote, 5-4, kept him and many other prisoners in jail. Texas released 1,600 criminals. So if we care about public safety, do you think we should put violent criminals back on the street? Especially, you know what I mean? Like, they've already shown to be.
Sure. But some people are going to argue with you that it's an apples and oranges issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's two different conversations.
But then we need to look at, like, from February 1st until May, just under 800,000 people have died in this country. So when you look at that and you create proper perspective and you break that number down and you look at what is actually plaguing the society, when you put COVID into perspective with many other things, how does it stack up? What is the risk of this versus many other things that we openly allow or that are just a part of the world? Is it even as bad as like pneumonia or the flu? We need to know these things. I don't want to make comparisons because they're different, but there's so much misinformation. They're saying, hey, this is novel. It's only novel in the way that, like, a new strain of influenza is novel. Coronaviruses have been around for decades. They were often lumped into just flu-like symptoms. You know this. So, like, there's a lot of information that we can use. The 2017 flu in America, I'm going to give you a quick example. 2017 flu in America hospitalized 959,000 people and over 61,000 died. If I made a mortality rate statistic using those information, it would be over 6% mortality rate, which would scare the hell out of people. But no one would ever do that. No expert would ever do that because you have to take into account asymptomatic cases, mild, moderate, non-hospitalizations, the people that cure naturally, et cetera, right? You have to do that. We didn't do that with COVID. And during one of the White House briefings, luckily, Dr. Birx did say, hey, she used an iceberg. She said, we might only be catching the very tip of this iceberg. There might be a massive group underneath that, gives us a proper perspective of this antibody or like the threat of this. And then we didn't pursue that. And now Stanford University, the University of Southern California, New York, several places in Massachusetts have all produced scientific studies only using data showing results with antibody testing that crush the horror stories of a 3 to 10% mortality rate virus plaguing this society that we are making our decisions based on. But we're not focusing on that. Why? That is the liberating information. And I don't want anyone to take my word for this. I want them to go look at it. I want them to put this into proper perspective. When we do that, we can make progress, man.
I hear you. And I would love to talk to you further about all that. And sometime maybe we can do that. And
anytime, man. You have my number. And like I said, I'm just trying to be a good man in a very difficult time. Like, please reach out to me. Like, you need to look at, I got a story for you. The April death statistics came out from Michigan. I looked at them as soon as they were available. Cancer, heart disease, COPD, stroke. These things are very consistent in how many people they kill. All of them dropped dramatically in April. How can you explain that? I can explain it for you. The Illinois public health director got on television and said, we are coding anyone that dies with COVID as a COVID death, even if they die of clear alternative sources. If you were to shoot me and I was to test positive, I would go into the COVID count. Does that make sense to you? I disregard that as
That
no
wouldn't make sense to anybody, I don't think. However, I
100%.
do.
So I wanted to throw that out, and then I interviewed a person from Sparrow, and I interviewed a ICU nurse here in Michigan, and I had the interview online. Her eyes open up, and she goes, "We're being instructed to do it that way. It's not that we want to. We're being instructed that we have to, report it that way. That's what we're being told to do. That doesn't mean that all states are. That means that that number is not the number that is going to accurately represent the threat. Would it be?"
It wouldn't be if somebody went in for a shooting and they tested positive and it came back that they were listed.
That would be criminal, right? Because you're steering the decisions of the nation.
That would certainly put somebody who wrote that report, at risk of
I'm not talking about reports. I'm talking about the public health director of Illinois speaking on television saying that and then corroborating that with multiple people. I don't want to report even the CDC.
Right, but I get where you're coming from, but they're saying that people who are dying from the COVID-19 have underlying health issues. So that's what a cause. So
and you know what? No. Even if COVID accelerates something, I would be perfectly fine with that being included. But if I die in a car accident and I test positive for COVID, I cannot go into that number. The other question you should ask is, the CDC is coding COVID deaths as a U07-1. However, when you go on any of their reports and you try to look at provisional death counts, like just go on your phone right after we get off the phone and type in CDC provisional death count COVID-19. You can only find that code with a little bracket and a number 1 next to it. And when you scroll down, you're going to have to say, what is that number 1 for? It says all COVID deaths and all presumable. So even in the number that you're seeing, they're putting every single presumable one that doesn't even need a verification to it. It doesn't even need lab work to be in that number. That's not okay, Rudy. Not when we're steering the fate of millions of people's lives, destroying businesses that'll never come back. We have the largest unemployment rate in history. We're going to create massive chain effects. And that these things are right in front of our face. And if I see people months down the road going, we didn't know this was happening. We didn't understand that these were, if I, just as a guy sitting down obsessing over studying this thing with a computer, can not only find this information, but then corroborate it and verify it, we all can. It's not hidden. It's almost right there in front of you. You just don't want to believe that. When I first heard it, I said, there's no way. We wouldn't report like that. But there are places doing it unquestionably. I can send you. Let's speak more off the record if you don't want to say any further.
Yeah. Well, no, I certainly appreciate your passion and everything. I just got to write this because, the more time I have to write, the better I can make the story. I got to, I have a deadline, so at 6.
No, I apologize, brother. I know
in 10 minutes. So,
and like I said, I genuinely, really appreciate you taking the time.
No, we'd love to have a conversation with you off the record sometime, just about your thoughts and the research that you've done. It's
100%, man.
We could certainly have a follow up too, man.
100%. Well, I appreciate you so much, dude. I appreciate you so much. And like I said, you're in a super powerful position right now. And, I just hope you get the information out to the people because these are wild times. So
Sure. Words have meanings for sure. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. See you later.
Have a great day, bro. Take care.
A Livingston County gym owner is in defiance of Governor Whitmer's stay-at-home order and has reopened to members. He says he will continue to operate despite the trouble he could face. And 7 Action News reporter Rudy Harper spoke with that gym owner and also law enforcement in Livingston County. And Rudy joins us live with this story. Rudy.
Amir, I just wrapped up that interview with that gym owner a short time ago. He told me this is not a matter of putting profits over people. He told me he simply doesn't believe all the reporting concerning the COVID-19 pandemic. Take a look at this video. This gym is located in Brighton, about 45 minutes from downtown Detroit. The fitness and martial arts facility caters to world-class athletes, children, and they also host self-defense classes. The owner, James Gray, tells me they've been shut down since March 13th, 8 weeks and counting. He says he is not putting profits over people. He says from his own research, it's his opinion that it's safe to reopen in spite of Governor Whitmer's stay-at-home orders. So he has welcomed back some members, hosting open gyms and putting law enforcement in a difficult decision.
I'm not trying to be a terrible person that's putting people's lives in danger. I want to do a slow process and kind of just make people feel better. I do believe that our elected officials and the people in positions of authority, they hold my hopes and dreams in their hands right now. And, I just hope that they're truly making the best information or the best decisions possible with the information available.
We have not received any complaints in reference to the gym being opening. Our response to the EO complaints have been very reactive. If we do receive a call, depending on the situation, then we may respond to it.
I also asked that gym owner his qualifications to make this medical decisions. He is not a doctor. He does not have a medical background. I also reached out to the Michigan Attorney General's office to see if they would take action, and I am waiting to hear back. Live in Detroit, I'm Rudy Harper, 7 Action News.
All right, something tells me this is not the end of this story, Rudy. Okay, thank you very much. A barber in Owasso defying the governor's executive order by staying open has been directly ordered to close. Attorney General Dana Nessel's office confirms the state department's Health of Human Services director ordered the barber, 77-year-old Carl Menke, to close. Menke was served orders on Friday by Michigan State Police, but still says he has no plans to shut his doors. Another